All right. Happy Faith-Based Friday. Faith-Based Friday. Let me get everything shared out. And we're going to jump into the message. We're going to jump into the message, baby. Right into it. You know how we get down over here, guys. We don't play around. We don't play those games out here. Mic check, mic check, mic check. Right into it. You know how we get those games out here. All right. Let's share it out and we're good to go. We're good to go. Let's get it right into it. All right, let's get into it. All right, first and foremost, let me introduce myself to anybody that may be new around here. My name, Aswan Crookshank. I am your one and only Move Swiftly speaker, former Division I college football player, and current 5-time, soon-to-be 6-time published author and educator. And I created this whole brand, this whole concept, this whole mindset, this whole way of life. That's all about taking the innovative teamwork lessons that you learned on the football field and utilizing translating them and utilizing them to help business owner build more efficient teams, more efficient and more productive teams that run just like a championship youth or high school football team. That is what we do around here in a nutshell. All right. And one of the things about what we do is we operate on systems, folks. We operate on systems. It's so very, very, very important. It's so very important that you create a system that eventually starts working harder than you. All right. Because as the person who takes the responsibility of putting the content out there and creating the opportunities and creating what you're going to create, eventually you need to depend on systems or you will not survive. And one of the systems that we have here is something called Faith-Based Friday. All right, I'll just break it down for you. And by the way, if you're new around here, make sure you're commenting, liking, sharing, subscribing, passing this along. We do Make Your Move Monday, kickoff question, top 5 Tuesday, Wintrepreneur Wednesday. We do a recap episode Thursday. Friday, we do faith-based, where I go over the sermon or whatever the message may have been that previous Sunday, because I go to church, whether I go physically or I listen to it, I make sure I get the word and make sure I stay prayed up, stay faith-based. So Faith-Based Friday, then we have film session Saturday, and then we have Stay Hired Sunday. So it's 7 days a week. We're on here doing something new, and it's the system, and keep working the system and working the system and working the system and working the system. So today, actually, you know what, before I get into the message, let me just get through a couple of announcements first and foremost, and then I will get into an absolute message, a sermon. The first time I've ever heard this, his name is Charlie Hughes. I actually went to church. So it started off as me going to Life Church, but I've been going back and forth to Church by the Glades and Life Church. So either one of those sermons, I'm going to be, going over and allowing that message to come across on Faith-Based Friday. It just kind of depends on where I'm at that weekend. But Charlie Hughes this was the first time I've ever heard him preach, and he gave an absolute great sermon that's all about building confidence and having the understanding of what God intended for you, what it is Jesus, of really understanding that you deserve to have nice things. You deserve to have the things that are of quality, and you do not deserve to settle. So we'll get into the message in a second. First and foremost, let me just get through a couple of announcements, and then we'll go from there. If you are a business owner, like I mentioned, what we do here is we help business owners create. We implement a system in which business owners can have a staff that moves as efficiently as a championship high school or youth football team. That same mentality. The very first step for you to do that is to go to free guide. If you're interested in that, is to go to freeguide.makeyourmove.com. It's a very easy to understand system that we are, not a system, but a formula that we work off. It is, number one, establishing measurables. Number two, creating professional distance and allowing those two things to be aligned with the correct balance. And then that being the productive environment that you need. What you do is you go to freeguide.makeyourmove.com. It's quite the morning. Started a little earlier than I expected. But anyway, freeguide.makeyourmove.com. Put your information in and you will get a 10-step process on how to start to at least get the ball rolling. It won't solve all your problems, but it'll at least get you thinking on the right path. All right. Next thing, for my people out in West Palm Beach, For my people out in West Palm Beach, if you are interested in boxing lessons, which can be something that can help your business in a great way, help your mindset, help you, create focus and, increase your productivity, all that good stuff. I have opened the business back up. All right. As you can see there, if you are interested in free boxing lessons, again, go to freeboxing.makeitmove.com. All your information, just put in all your information where we can contact you, what time you would like to set up your free session, and we'll give you all the information for that as well. And if you are like the people we love to work with around here, the folks that are saying bump all that free stuff, let me know what I got to pay for, because I'm willing to pay for employee development. I'm willing to pay to have it to where my staff actually operates the way Aswan operates, and I want Aswan to implement that mindset into my staff. So we're building and we're creating, we're continuously developing that growth mindset. Simply go to makeitmove.com, hit the shop now tab, and you'll see where you can get an employee development workshop, where you can buy the books, where you can, overall do your research on me so you know what you're going to be getting. And hit the innovative teamwork tab so you know the result. I'll read it for you directly. Turn your business into a championship team. It is common knowledge that the best way to win in business or in life is by avoiding ways to lose. Whether you've just started a new business or you've been in business for quite some time, there's no getting around the need to hire or outsource certain elements of your organization so things can run as efficiently as possible. When you book your meeting with Aswan, he'll diagnose what the issues are with your current system and then strategically create a system in which will lead to a reduced amount of turnover or a clear understanding of the parts of your business that need to be outsourced. That is what we do over here. All right. So, as I mentioned, this was the first time that I've heard a Charlie Hughes speak. And the interesting, let's see, there it is. The interesting thing about going to Church by the Glades and the type of churches I enjoy, and I've said this on multiple Faith-Based Fridays. I remember, if you go back to the first Faith-Based Friday that I did on this very channel, it was all about the concept of not being judged. Again, a person like myself grew up with a unique name and in an environment in which I was made fun of a lot and was teased a lot. My sanctuary and my place of acceptance was on the football field. However, when I got off the football field, I'd have to deal with the idea, deal with being judged, deal with people assuming things and creating all sorts of stereotypes towards me and the church and being around religion and all that stuff. It hit a trigger for me. So when I see people out there, preaching in jeans and a t-shirt and sneakers and, being themselves on stage, but delivering a great message, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing to see. Now, it just so happened that this week at Church by the Glades, they had this thing called Rally, where it's a lot of young adults, kids from 18 to 30. They're out there enjoying themselves. They had a DJ at the end, and it was great to see young people just fellowshipping in a productive environment and drawing a closer relationship to God, however they get to know God. And that's what I would implore amongst anybody. Just get to know God your way. Don't worry about how somebody else looks at you, and don't worry about the judgment that you're going to receive. Get to know God your way in how you believe is right. And what's going to start to happen is you're going to start to really work from a place where when the right thing is the right thing. What right from wrong. You start to use your own discernment and understand these are the things that I need to be doing with my life if I want to actually get better. So I'm gonna let him talk about it a little bit, and then there's a couple points I want to hit. I have them written down here. A couple points I want to hit, in which he talks about why it's important for us to be bold in the things that we ask God for, because we're humans, and if we can ask God for anything, it's going to be common stuff like you need, money, or you need a relationship, house, whatever, or a new job, whatever. But our requests are small compared to what God actually has planned for you, right? And that's what he kind of alludes to in this sermon. So let me let him ride, let me let him cook, and then we'll kind of react and talk about it as it goes.
If you're here and you're a little confused where you're at right now because we've been talking about this thing called Rally and you thought you were coming to church by the Glades, that is because today is Rally Takeover Weekend. And Rally is the young adult movement of this church. Every single month, the young adults of this church, as well as First Baptist Fort Lauderdale, meet at First Baptist Fort Lauderdale, where just on a Friday night, we go after the presence of God and we lift up the name of Jesus. And I get to lead Rally, so I'm a little biased, but it doesn't necessarily make me wrong. I think God is doing something very special at Rally. Yes, and that Rally is a ministry, but it's more than a ministry. It's turning into a movement. God is doing something so special month in and month out. We see over 1,400 young adults join us in the heart of downtown Fort Lauderdale on a Friday night to lift up the name of Jesus. But the month of July looks a little different at Rally because instead of just gathering together one night a month, we gather for 3 nights in a row. And that was this past Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And God just did what only he can do. We saw 61 young adults, 18 to 30-year-olds, go public with their faith through baptism. We saw hundreds, literal hundreds of young adults make the decision to give their life by faith to Jesus Christ for the first time. And while we are celebrating all that God did, I want to celebrate all of you, those who may be in this room who maybe are not between the ages of 18 to 30, because you are well aware that those of us between the ages of 18 to 30 are broke. And we cannot be doing Rally without your generosity, without your sacrifice, without you making a way for those of us who would not be able to make a way for ourselves. So can you put your hands together for yourselves, because you make it possible for young adults in South Florida to encounter the presence of God and have everything change for them. But I think the party should keep going this morning. Does anyone just want to pretend like they're a young adult this morning and have a little taste of Rally for yourself? I'm honored to bring the word. For many, many years, it was believed by doctors and scientists alike that it was impossible to run a mile in under 4 minutes. They believed it was so impossible that actually doctors believed that if you even attempted to run a mile in under 4 minutes, that your heart would explode. Until one day, in the year of 1954, a man by the name of Roger Bannister ran a mile in 3 minutes and 59 seconds. Shout out to Roger. But the craziest thing about Roger Bannister shattering this 4-minute mile barrier is that within a year of him doing so, 37 other runners also managed to run a mile in under 4 minutes. So what changed? The track? Their training? Their shoes? No, their belief. Because sometimes you just need someone to model that to ask for the impossible is not impossible, to achieve the impossible. For the 37 runners that followed him in that year, Roger Bannister was that model. I believe for you and I this morning, our model for asking for the impossible is going to be a man found in Mark chapter 10. Mark chapter 10.
All right. So first of all, before I let him keep, I'm gonna let him keep rocking. But do you see what I mean? Do you see how he pulled from a story, a real story, and then drew people into the word? This is all great communication. All right. Whether it's public speaking or you just communicating, you're presenting something to somebody. It's important that you figure out ways to get your message across in a way that they can understand. That takes work. That takes developing your communication skills, because it's so effective. It's so effective. And it's so important that people see, hey, it's human beings can create things, can create opportunities, and there can be things that have never been done. It's up to you to communicate that. So let me let him keep rocking. There was like 10. I have it right here. I'll let him cook from like right here.
To this blind man in this.
Let me let him go back a little bit.
Most definitely. Certainly the reason why asking for sight would not have been as obvious to this man place of shelter. And last but certainly not least, in this story, we witness this blind man being treated terribly without even flinching. Probably because it's something that happened regularly. He could have just asked for a friend. He could have asked for people just to treat him nicer. And if Jesus would have given him any of these things, they would have changed his life drastically, radically. But undoubtedly, most definitely, certainly the reason why asking for sight would not have been as obvious to this man to ask for as we might like to think it would have been. Is possible to ask for. Because back in Jesus' day, you got to remember, this was not a time of modern medicine. So if you were blind, you were blind. There was nothing a doctor could do to help you see. So if you were blind in Jesus' day, you had virtually nothing for. And up to this point, believing to see was nothing he had any real hope to ever believe for. What we are quick to say was the obvious thing to ask for, to this blind man would have felt impossible to ask for. The obvious was impossible. But yet still, when Jesus asked this blind man, what do you want me to do for you? He said, Jesus, I want to see. And instantaneously, immediately, he regained his sight and he began to see. And for this reason, when we read this story, we don't see that the obvious was impossible. When we read the story, we see and we say that the impossible was obvious. And I want to tell you that we're not wrong to, but we would be wrong to read this blind man's story and have more faith for him than ourselves. Because I don't know if you're here today and you're physically blind or not, but maybe you're here today, and because of the pain you've experienced in your past and the failure you've experienced in your life up to this point, and the heartbreak maybe you're even dealing with right now, you find yourself here today to a degree spiritually blind, unable to have sight and vision for what in your life and what in your future is possible. So instead of asking God for all that, whether you realize it or not, is able, you just settled with asking for God to make your life slightly less horrible.
Right there. Right there. First of all, I know the Wi-Fi was kind of shaky just now, so my apologies on that. But I want to allow that message to hit them. That was the part right there, in my opinion, my favorite part of the sermon, because too often do you get in the habit of asking for surface level things. All right. Just get me out of this one situation. But it's so important that you develop the faith and develop the confidence, develop the work ethic, develop the things that you need to develop on the inside to say, I deserve all of the great things that God has in store for me. All right. Matter of fact, I'm going to let him go back, because where is it at right now? Let me let him go back there. When you really understand the, you know what, let me let him keep cooking. I'm addressing
your life up to this point. Mm-hmm. And the heartbreak maybe you're even dealing with right now, you find yourself here today to a degree spiritually blind.
Spiritually blind. That's
unable
the term. Spiritually blind.
Sight and vision for what in your life and what in your future is possible. Mm-hmm. So instead of asking God for all that, whether you realize it or not, is on the table, you just settled with asking for God to make your life slightly less horrible. Settle
to ask God for the things that make just their life slightly less horrible. That is the issue. Sometimes it's so much more about how much more like developing, again, confidence and the ability to see, hey, there's so much more in store for me than what I'm asking God for. So much of that is all on the inside. All right. I'm gonna let him keep cooking. Come on, Charlie. Hit him.
Because life has taught you that believing for anything more for you,
that part,
is impossible.
That part.
So instead of asking God for a godly spouse, you just settled with begging God for the next person you get matched with to at least have a job.
Heard him. Instead of asking for a godly spouse, you just somebody that's gonna keep me from being. Just pick someone that's gonna help me with current situations. So a godly spouse. Get specific about the important things that you have to have in your life. Get specific about these things. It's important that you do that. Keep going.
Instead of asking God for that dream job full of purpose, you settle with just asking God to make the boss of the job you currently have, that you know has nothing to do with what he's called you to do, to stop being such a jerk to you.
right there, just looking to fit in, instead of asking God for a job that makes it so you're operating in your purpose. All week, we've been talking about merit. All week, we've been talking about meritocracy and actually performing and doing something that you're called to do. Instead of asking God for that kind of job, you just want to fit in and make it so your boss isn't a jerk to you, so you don't have to deal, you can feel comfortable in the moment. That's not faith. That is not the way you should be operating. You should be operating in a way as I'm going to ask God of all the things I deserve because I know what's working within inside me. I know what's working within my heart. That's what we got to ask for. Let them keep going. Come on, Charlie. Come on. Keep hurting them.
And in every area of your life, little by little, instead of asking God for a life that you love.
Every area. Okay.
Instead of asking God to give you a life that you just don't hate. Because life has beat you down, you have brought your expectations for your future down.
Ooh.
But I think God has brought some people to church today.
Amen.
To let you know that if you keep thinking small, if you keep dreaming small,
Amen.
if you keep praying small,
Amen.
it will keep you from living big. And so
come on now.
Some people some
preach it
that will help you correctly view your life through a lens of faith. Because what is true about your life and what is the fact about your future is your past failure does not determine your future. The power of your heavenly Father determines your future. Bartimaeus' problem being impossible is not what gave him the faith to ask for sight.